Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year, and welcome to the first meeting of the North Carolina Local Government Commission meeting of 2023, January 10th. State Treasurer Dale Falwell, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Cindy Aiken, I'll ask you to call the roll and share our meeting procedures and any housekeeping items.
Thank you. This is Cindy Aiken. Auditor Wood. Here. Present in person. Secretary Marshall is not here yet. Secretary Penny.
Here.
In person. Mr. Burns.
Here, virtually. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Butler.
Here.
Thank you. Also present virtually is Harvey.
Here, virtually.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Hoffman.
Here.
Also here. Online, thank you. Mr. Philbeck.
Here.
Thank you. And Treasurer Falwell is here in person. The staff present are Sharon Edmondson, Secretary of the LGC, Jennifer Wimmer, Debt Management Director, Susan McCollum, Fiscal Management Director, Debbie Tomasco, Cindy Aiken, and Victoria Bledsoe. We have our same procedures as always, being broadcast live with a GoToWebinar platform. The written minutes will continue to be the official record of our meeting. If you have any problems that prevent us obtaining a usable recording that has no effect on the validity of actions taken, the important housekeeping reminders are that please mute yourself if you are not speaking. If we have any kind of power or audio-visual interruption, the meeting will continue until we get things straightened out. And just a reminder, if you're online, all audio and video will continue to be broadcast. Please identify yourself when you're speaking, making and seconding motions. If you have to leave the meeting and we don't see that it's not obvious to us, especially if you're online, please just interject with a quick note. And we'll take our votes by roll call without objection. If you are a motion or a second, that will be deemed a yes unless you change your mind and tell us otherwise. Today's agenda is posted on the State Treasurer's website. And for our members, I apologize for the last minute change in the minutes from the December meeting. Hopefully everybody got a corrected copy yesterday, and those would be the minutes that you'll be voting on to adopt today. Now it's on me. We missed a couple of items. We got that straightened out. So at the end of that's it.
Thank you. If members will stand and join us for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of North Carolina and pledge to the old North State love, loyalty, and faith.
Thank you all very much. And now we'll proceed with our agenda. Does anyone have a moment after reviewing the agenda, have a conflict or an appearance of conflict? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of December 6th.
So moved. Auditor Wood.
Second.
I'll second. Philbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Philbeck. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Secretary Penny. Thank you. Mr. Burns.
Aye.
Mr. Butler.
Aye.
Ms. Harvey. I think that was an aye. Councilwoman Hoffman.
Aye.
Treasurer Falwell.
Aye.
Secretary Marshall being absent. 8-1. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is I want to call your attention to attachment A of your materials. This is the OPEB report that we've put out consistently, but we had a great suggestion from Member Butler about talking about this and drawing people's attention to the unfunded health care, pension, and LEO liabilities that many of the applicants that are before us face. And so that's in attachment A. Now I'll turn the meeting over to Debbie for a report.
Good afternoon, members. We thought before we started with the business for 2023, we just, and this is just, you don't have a report of this in your packet. We're just providing some updates verbally, just sort of a summary of 2022 and what considered and managed in 2022. Like I said before, we start jumping into the business of 2023. So sort of a summary of the high points of the year that the commission took care, the business the commission took care of in 2022. First, there were a couple of legislative changes that the commission dealt with. We had some lowering those thresholds on those UAL units, and we had the reasonableness of assumptions. We implemented some policies and procedures to implement those two statutory changes. We had the dissolution authority given to the LGC under a session law last year, and the LGC encountered that authority and exercised that authority for the first time in 2022. So those were significant changes that I think, again, we're very new to the commission this year, and I think we're handled really well through our processes. Viable utility reserve, we continue to be involved at the viable utilities reserve process. Over $220 million in viable utility reserve grants were approved by the commission this year. That's a significant number and a significant impact to those communities in trying to address their water sewer projects and needs. We had a improvement in the agenda process, the readability of hopefully the agenda, moving away from mice type that Secretary Marshall had mentioned, which I hope has been good for not only the members, obviously, but also the members of the general public who are looking to those agendas for information. We've also made some good processes for tracking all the applications that staff get, better use that data to process those applications that Jennifer and her team receive and improve ways to process all the multitudes of data we receive. We work closely with the Department of State Treasurer's IT team to continue to modernize our operations, and that's been a really successful collaboration and hopefully making some good improvements for the local governments we serve and for our staff as well to expedite and streamline some of those processes. Just as a quick example of that, we have, as you all know, we have local governments who have to submit their audit reports to us, their audit contracts to us, and their audit invoices to us. So minimally, we're looking at least 3,000 documents a year that staff is processing. And under statute, LGC is required to either approve or review those. So how we effectuate that is basically by stamping it with a stamp, a watermark stamp, and saying, yes, this has been reviewed or approved, and then we email it back out to the unit. And so the process before this year was our staff would look at the document online, apply a stamp, an electronic stamp, pull up Outlook, write an email, send that document to them saying this was reviewed or approved. We now have a process where these documents are presented to staff and they can simply click a button, approve, and they can walk away. So we've implemented technology to automatically stamp it, automatically write the email, automatically send the email. Again, when you're writing the email, you have to figure out who it's going to, get the right email addresses, do the right language. Seems like a very small change, but the impact on staff time, we've implemented that technology now over 2,000 times just since we started in September for all the invoices and the audits and the contracts that we have coming through. Again, to me, that's the goal of what we're doing from a technology perspective is eliminate some of that administrative overhead and allow our staff to focus on the things that matter and where we bring value. So we're excited about some of those changes we're making, and we're really grateful for the collaboration and the support of the department's IT team here who've made some of that possible. So with Susan's team, the fiscal management staff team, we started 2022 with 8 units under LGC financial control, and we wrapped up the year with 6. East Laurinburg was the first town to have their charter dissolved under the LGC's new authority to initiate dissolution. That happened in June of 2022. And Pikeville also fell off that list for the good reason of having their return control, their financial affairs returned to them just in December. So we continue obviously to work with those 6. And just as a reminder, for for folks what that means when the LGC assumes financial control. The LGC is acting in the place of the governing board for those local governments for financial matters. So what does that mean for the LGC last year? Well, the LGC held budget hearings and adopted annual budget ordinances for all 8 of those units. The LGC adopted 22 budget amendments for those various units and adopted resolutions to do anything from disposing of property, modifying water and sewer rates, applying for and receiving grants, adopting uniform guidance policies, appointing finance officers, all those things that go on that the local boards would typically do, the LGC assumed. So I think it's good just to remind the commission and our staff of how much is going on in those units and what you're doing serving as those local boards. So that was obviously, in addition to all the audit reviews and things that fiscal staff does, that was what the year looked like on that side of the house. For the debt approvals, I actually just quizzed Jennifer on the way down to see if she could guess how many applications the LGC considered in 2022. It's nearly 200 applications in 2022 for debt approval from local governments and public authorities that need to get LGC approval. So nearly 200 applications, and that total close to $10 billion in debt issuance. And so, again, looking at the purposes of that, we're talking about anything from fire trucks and fire stations to airport improvements to water sewer systems. So, again, a lot of times we look at the dollars here, and these are really important projects for these communities as they're getting this debt approved. So just wanted to, like I said, before we jump into 2023, start with a little recap of what 2022 looked like and what the commission did in 2022. So, and I'm happy to take any questions if we have any. Otherwise, Mr. Treasurer, we can turn it back over to you for the next item.
Welcome, Secretary Marshall. Left off the biggest accomplishment of the year. I'm bringing that forward.
While
I need some help,
Debbie's,
Jennifer.
while Debbie's doing that, for those who are listening, Bill Toole, designee for Secretary Marshall, has arrived. Fill in for her.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just
Yeah,
saw.
I'm sure you are. You didn't notice it was me?
No, I just saw glasses there, and I just didn't.
That's all right.
Welcome. So another accomplishment, bring it over here, please, is the fact that the State and Local Government Commission, Secretary Penny, won the Treasurer's Cup this year for decoration at our office Christmas party. So this is a float of all the things that we dealt with at the Local Government Commission. Nothing negative or nothing positive. It's just a float. So, go ahead.
Well, let's see. We have a ferry
Right, we have a ferry.
out in the back there with it's actually decorated.
That's Baldhead Island Ferry. Okay. Next.
Go ahead, Sharon. You're closer.
Okay. So that's the ferry. The
Hang on, let me turn
structure
around.
next to the ferry is the library parking lot
Project Grace.
or Project Grace. This is Town Hall for the town of Dogwood, which is our fictitious town that we do illustrated financial statements for. Over on this side, I probably can't see it, there's a Christmas tree, and underneath it, there's gifts of GS 159, Senate Bill 265, GASB 87, and Senate Bill 314.
Gatsby 87's a.
Yeah,
That's the, that represents the coal.
Yeah, GASB 87 is cold.
That's the coal.
Then we have Santa over here, and his list says the naughty list, but we can't read that. With his sack of goodies there. And
We're on the UAL list.
then, yeah.
Okay.
And then we already talked about that one. The other structure there is the dock with the kayak launch.
Oh,
And I was gonna eat it, but you keep going.
Oh, no.
you don't want to eat it now.
With the kayak launch, and then the water
Is it Sun
represents.
Emerald Out, Sunset
Is that a
Beach?
pier? Do we have a
Sunset
pier?
The beach, yeah.
Do we also have a pier?
And yeah, we have a pier there for Holden Beach.
Okay.
And then the water represents wastewater treatment.
On a
Did you
gingerbread?
get the
I
sand?
don't know.
We
The
won.
beach.
We won the competition.
That's
with
well
the
done.
Mr. Philback, Mr. Burns, y'all see all that?
We need-
You're muted.
I
It's awful
can,
small from here, but I enjoyed the description.
yeah, I can just see the big thing. I can't make out the individual elements.
Bald Head Island, the kayak launch, our fictitious city, town hall here,
Project Grace to the right
Project Grace,
is right there.
Project Grace, and Santa Claus. So, anyway,
Beach renewal.
another one of y'all's accomplishments. Congratulations. Thank you very much. We'll have it in person.
Are
for
any
y'all.
of the members of the LGC on the naughty list? That would be important information for me and Mr. Philbeck.
Yeah, negative.
So, congratulations. Thank you very much. And in terms of what was just read off, I mean, that all those things just didn't jump up on the table by itself. In addition to doing their regular jobs, they worked with Sam Watts and Legislative Affairs to get these things passed to the House and the Senate. Secretary Penny, Secretary Marshall, Alder Wood, and Bill and others know that that's not easy all the time. So thank you, and thank you for all those things that makes the LGC and our state a better place. All right.
Mr. Treasurer,
Yes.
there are a few local governments that probably think that Lucifer should have been on there somewhere.
Lucifer. We'll work on that next year. Good point. Next, we'll confirm with board members to see if there's any items on the consent agenda that they would like to pull for individual votes or have any questions about.
Mr. Treasurer,
Yes,
can
Mr.
you hear
Bowers.
me? The list of accomplishments, will they be shown in the minutes of today's meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments or any items that people would like to pull from the consent agenda? Okay. If not, I'll ask for a vote to approve our consent agenda. As many of you can see, Asheville is on there. The LGC to some degree, but a lot of people in the Asheville area have been working hard to figure out what's going on with the lack of water in certain parts of Asheville. Even though some of those issues have been resolved, the underlying problems probably have not been resolved. So, as I told the newspaper down there, that this LGC has approved tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars for the city of Asheville water system over the years. And so it's not a lack of funding or a lack of approval by the LGC that's led to this situation. All right, given that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move approval, Alderwood.
Nancy.
Second, Penny.
Secretary Penny, a second. Alderwood, a first. Any further discussion about the consent agenda? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Our consent agenda consists of City of Asheville's matter through the Hope Mills matter. Mr. Toole,
Aye.
Mr. Burns,
Aye.
thank you. Mr. Butler, thank you. Ms. Harvey,
Aye.
thank you. Ms. Councilwoman Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck,
Aye.
and Treasurer.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We'll now turn the meeting over to Susan to go through unit updates. A couple of these will require a vote. We'll do the votes at the end without objection. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Treasurer. If you look at attachment C of the updates under the, of units under LGC financial control, the first thing you'll see is some updates on units. There's some summary of successes. Debbie mentioned some of these earlier.
specifically East Laurinburg, the dissolution of the town's charter. Not that that was a happy thing to do, but it was something that had some positive outcomes for the citizens of the community. There were some much needed street repairs that were done prior to the dissolution of the charter. And Scotland County was a valuable partner to the LGC as we did this first ever charter dissolution. And the community, the citizens themselves are much better off without the additional taxes that the community was levying, and they continue to receive the same services from the county or from private providers. Pikeville, we concluded that financial control on December 6th. That community is now back in financial control of their own records, and we are continuing to monitor them with a fiscal accountability agreement that they looked at, that they got the most recent draft of last night for the board to look at. Town of Eureka, we continue to manage those operations and address the shortfalls there with what in the water and sewer fund. Cliffside Sanitary District, the operators there are doing some really nice work to upgrade that system, and we're also working towards doing finding an engineer to move ahead with things that have been identified in the AIA there. Kingstown, the town of Kingstown, during the last calendar year completed its fiscal year 2022 audit, and they also used a direct grant and some viable utility reserve money to pay off a significant debt to the town of Shelby of $178,000 that was accumulated over 7 years. They're well set now to move ahead, the town of Kingstown. Robertsonville has hired.
What's the timeline for that?
Excuse me?
Kingstown?
I don't have a timeline for them yet. I should have one.
Thank you.
Soon. Robertsonville, the town council has hired a permanent town manager that has some really good experience in small municipalities, and he is well versed in beginning to move the town ahead. And they recently converted to a new utility system off an old DOS reporting system. So they are in good shape to begin to move ahead. Spring Lake has, they are continuing to practice good budgetary control, utilizing purchase orders and encumbrances. They also have listed their manager position. It's posted, and we'll be working very closely with them for that going forward. So there are some nice things happening in the units that we're managing. So moving on, if you look at page 1 of 18 in attachment C, I've got 3 items that I need you to vote on. There's updates for every one of the units that we are managing except for Spencer Mountain. Cliffside, and so look at those and let me know if you have any questions. We can, if you have any questions about any others. But the ones I want to speak to are Cliffside. There is a sewer tap fee schedule resolution, and that is on page 5 of 18. Cliffside is asking you to approve a change to the sewer tap fee for new customers only. This does not affect any existing customers. And this is a result actually of one new customer that Cliffside had recently. And there's the potential for an additional commercial customer. So that's the level of volume that we're talking about. We are the governing board for Cliffside, so they don't have a governing board at this point. The additional fees for a new customer that wants to tap into their sewer system is $500 per tap. You'll see on page 7 the new proposed fee. That fee is consistent with other nearby units that have sewer tap fees. Bowling Springs, Rutherfordton, and Forest City are all nearby units that have those same tap fees. And we went out and looked at theirs for comparison. Bowling Springs are a little bit lower than what we have here, the $500. Rutherfordton and Forest City are higher, but we did look at ones that are in the area. And the notification of these new sewer tap fees will be included on the Broad River website that does the billing and the collecting for CSD on our behalf, but only new customers will be impacted. The other items, so that's all CSD. Were there any questions about that? The other item is for Robertsonville. So if you look at page 10 of 18, there's some budget amendments for Robertsonville, a $10,000 grant from Electricities to do a rate study, and that increased the enterprise fund. That increased the electric fund budget by $10,000. And then there's also an increase in section 2 of on that same page to increase the general fund by $19,750, and that is to appropriate money where needed to pay for a temporary employee's payroll, and then also recognize commissions on property taxes instead of netting them against revenue, which is an inappropriate treatment. So that's page 10 and 11. On page 12, we have one more item for Robertsonville. The town commissioned a professional study of the town employees' compensation rates. And the town wanted to modify the compensation for the town manager position and the finance officer position to implement those changes that were recommended by the study. And commission staff supported those modifications and looked at and determined that there was sufficient budget and available funds in the current year to modify the salaries of the compensation of those positions. On December 13th, the town council approved the modifying compensation, and we're asking you to ratify it today in compliance with their original budget ordinance of June 27th, 2022. And those are the only 3 items that I have that I'm requesting you to vote on today for the units that we're managing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Given that, I'll entertain a motion to accept staff's recommendation the votes necessary for Cliffside Sanitary District and the 4 Robertsonville items.
Mr. Treasurer,
Yes, Mr. Butler.
How much are we right? What's the salary going to be for the manager and for the finance officer? And shouldn't that be in the resolution?
Susan?
I don't have any, do we have, I don't think Kendra and Becky are on.
Let me see what I have. While I look, are there any other questions?
I don't think that they're on. They're on a unit visit today.
While we're trying to find that, Mr. Butler, you have any other questions?
I have a question for clarity.
Mr. Penny?
Why are we raising the Cliffside, particularly for sewage hookup? What's the?
It's a new fee. We did not have it before for Cliffside. Okay, go ahead, Tom.
This is Cindy Aiken. Our staff, David Irwin, who is acting finance officer for the district, related that there had been a situation where an individual tapped in, and it was a big mess because it was not an active line. So they have nothing. They have no way to know in advance without having this. They weren't given the opportunity to inspect, make sure. So they want to put in the mechanism. So there's a pre-hookup inspection to make sure we got a good line. That's part. And then of course that offsets the cost.
Does this reflect the cost?
Yeah, I believe it does. And it was in line. We have
I guess my concern is I'm charging an individual the same thing that I'm charging an industry or an institution, and I'm not sure that there's any industry, but
I don't know that
institutions there probably are.
Commercial customer.
There's one school, one commercial customer, and the big industry left.
An additional commercial customer potentially coming on. One
Potential.
$500 isn't a deal breaker,
I
but
guess I'm gonna ask you, is the hookup the same? Is there more
I
cost in a hookup? So it is.
Yeah. Is David available? Can you answer that question? Whether the hookup is the same for a individual, whether the inspection process is the same? That's what this actually is.
I'd probably pay
David Irwin, we are going to,
And while we're doing that, we're going to get an answer to Mr. Butler's first question.
I'm working on that.
and Mr. Treasurer, who, what answer would you like first?
Either one.
David Irwin, can you address Secretary Penny's question? You're unmuted. If you're connected with our meeting, and you can answer.
Auditor Woods probably had the more relevant question, and that is, does it cost more? We're charging the same, but does it cost more for an industry or an institution, which obviously probably has a bigger line?
Is the cost of the hookup the same for citizens or an industry or a school? The costs of the hookup.
Yeah, I understand your question. And
because if it's the same, the cost is the same.
David's answer,
he's unmuted. He can speak.
Okay.
Mr. Treasurer,
Yeah, we're on Mr. Yes, sir, Mr. Butler.
He knows something. He may
usually tap fees are determined on where the tap is going to be. Is that for the utility, the public body to bring it to the building? Or is it up for the individual homeowner or industry to get it out to the line where it taps on? And I don't know if you have any clarity on that or not, but that can be quite a difference.
Okay, we have David Irwin with us now. He's, again, the acting finance officer for Cliffside Sanitary District. David, do you have a response to those questions?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, it's the same collection system line. The cost is probably greater, but this is mainly so that the operator, the ORC there, has an opportunity to inspect the work. I mean, we're not charging for the work. We're charging for the time and expertise and the knowledge to make sure the sewer line is properly attached to the collection system and won't leak or interfere with, the pipe in any way.
Okay.
I don't
know,
know.
what does that answer?
You're just asking about equity and the,
Right.
so the reason's irrelevant.
Right.
It's, we understand the reason.
Yeah.
But is the charge equitable?
Is the charge equitable? David?
Okay, what equitable in terms of the man going and inspecting the system? That's all we're doing. We're not doing any installation at all. They have to get their own contractor. We just have to be informed so that we can make sure that the line they're using is working and that the attachment is done properly.
And
So I
you're
think
gonna,
it is equitable.
$500 is the inspection.
that's right, it's the inspection. So you're gonna do the same inspection whether or not it's a commercial client, an institution, or an individual.
Yes.
Pretty much the same, yes.
Okay,
Sounded like.
okay.
All right, does that satisfy that question? All right.
And I have the answer to the Robertsonville salary question. The manager's salary after the increase was $115,000. The finance officer's salary was $73,000 after those, and those were in line with the market studies that were done.
What was the manager's salary?
$115,000.
For a population of how many people are in Robertsonville?
About 3,200.
I think, Susan, there's some complexity too.
Yeah, and absolutely, there's complexity there. They have water and sewer and electric and police. Yes, so there's some complexity in that community.
Where every city manager has that complexity.
Mm-hmm.
The city can pay whatever.
Well, every city manager does not have an electric system.
No, they don't.
Mr. Butler,
They're
more
only
questions?
about 72.
Mr. Treasurer, did we get a copy of the compensation pamphlet that's prepared by the School of Government every year that looks at sheriffs, city managers, social service directors?
It's available on their website. This is Sharon. We'll be happy to send out the link to everybody.
Other questions? I mean, does staff feel like that's excessive or not?
No, sir. We were.
The resolution doesn't have a salary in it, does it?
No, sir. It did not. We did. Go ahead.
This is Cindy. All that we've done is refer to their December 13th meeting, as the minutes would be available for that, whether they are now or not. I don't know. Let's take a look.
We're not by this action setting a salary.
No, sir. No, sir. This is Susan McCullen. You're ratifying the budget change that the board did, and they're asking. Yeah, they don't have the authority as the governing board yet fiscally. So you're ratifying the budgetary change for that.
This is, may I?
Yeah,
This
sure.
is Cindy Aiken again. this came up because since the LGC proper is the de facto board for financial issues, and this was voted on kind of as a, without anybody thinking that it was, LGC was needed at the time, because, no, Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, this is not changing line items within the budget allowed for salaries, is that right? Or within the,
It's not changing,
the fund?
it's not changing the total of the
Total,
funds.
right, so it's not, so whatever the budget is that the LGC approved for this unit for this fiscal year, nothing needed to be changed in that fund for salaries.
Where'd it come from?
It was,
It's
it
just
was, it was
the-
budgeted in there.
It's just,
They were able to absorb the balance of the year.
So what the former people make?
so, well, and just to back up, since we felt it was proper to have you ratify what they did, since you are the board for financial decisions.
Yeah. So the former people, the last, I think, let me text,
The current finance officer, this is Sharon, the current finance officer is the first one they've had since
Oh,
we
that's right,
dismissed.
that's why
Yes.
there was enough.
Yeah,
Since
the
we-
manager / finance officer that
Thank you.
was making poor decisions.
right.
That's right.
And,
So-
and this finance officer that they hired, she has been there for a period of time. She's off probation. She has grown in her role.
Well, let's rephrase
And,
that.
excuse me?
Let's rephrase that a little bit.
She's out of her probationary period.
She's out of her probationary employment period. She's an permanent
Well, with some of these
employee.
cities, it could be a true statement.
And this increase was commensurate with her increase in experience. The former manager that they had, they ended up moving on to another community, and and they were not able to, that salary that they hired him at was not going to be enough in the current market to get someone with some experience for that.
The previous manager, that was his first job in town management.
And yeah,
And Chris has been around for a while.
he's got 28 years.
Yeah.
of
He's much more
local
experienced, much more knowledgeable.
management
in
experience.
local government management
Yes,
Than the previous manager. was.
right. So he's just, and the other complexity with this community is they have $11 million in grant money that they're going to be dealing with water and sewer capital projects, and he's going to be able to manage that process for them.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I wanted, did Cindy, was Cindy expressing us that we are in fact approving the budget when we do this salary, not the board, since we're the governing body? Is that correct, Cindy, or not?
This is Cindy responding. Sharon and Susan, correct me if I'm wrong. When this isn't involving a budget amendment, but it's a compensation decision, which by law is given to the board, and that's financial. So maybe this is overkill, but we just felt like it was important keep it consistent across units. If we're going to be approving financial decisions for Unit A under LGC control, we'll approve them for Unit B.
Correct.
That's my
So
understanding.
let me ask, so we are approving salary, not the elected board.
Right.
Okay, that's all, that was just all I wanted to get a clear answer on.
Sorry. Okay. I can make it.
You're right, the budget.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept staff's recommendation for the Cliffside vote and the 4 Robertsonville votes?
So moved, Burns.
Second, Penny.
Thank you, Mr. Burns, Mr. Secretary Penny. Just one final thing. Has this person been in local government before?
Which,
The manager?
oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. He was in
He was in Kernersville.
Kernersville, yes. He was the manager in Kernersville
Until what?
for, until earlier this year. Yeah, I think he left there in April or May.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
He walked away, they didn't turn.
Yeah, he wanted to move, relocate east, because that's where his
But it had
family
nothing to
is.
do with Dumpster Gate.
Excuse me?
Had nothing to do with Dumpster Gate in Turnersville.
No,
Kenansville, not Kernersville, I'm
Kenansville.
sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, Kenansville.
Kenansville, that's right.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
The other K,
The other one.
The other K Vegas?
Okay.
Well, Kenansville's Kenansville and Turnersville's K Vegas. All right. Okay. So we're clear. Then he left there in good standing.
He left there in good standing. Yes, he did. He chose.
Do you know what he was making there? And is this going to result in a pension spiking for Robersonville, where they'll ultimately have to pay the pension plan a higher pension contribution
This is an increase for him.
of?
I do not know how.
What do you think? But it could result in a pension spike. Because it's over $100,000.
Yeah.
what would be the increment?
But-
It would have,
At what point would there
Well,
be?
any amount, but it's obviously the smaller the increment, the less spike.
This is an increase for him. But how much of an increase?
Okay,
I do not know.
thank you. Motion second on table. Any further discussion? I don't know how Robersonville's going to afford this $200,000 worth of salary. Just because you got $11 million of grant money does not mean.
Well, probably can't pay it out of grant money.
Right. I'll listen, clerk will call the roll.
all right. So for Cliffside Sanitary Resolution, 3 ordinance, budget ordinance amendments on Robersonville, plus the last resolution on compensation, Burns and Penny. Auditor Wood. Aye. Thank you. Mr. Toole.
Aye.
Mr. Butler.
No,
Do we need to break these out? Because you want to vote no on all 4?
yes,
Okay. Ms. Harvey?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Treasurer?
I vote no because of my questions about the pension spike, which
Okay.
is part of my job.
All right, that's 7 aye, 2 no.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yes, sir.
Sharon?
So I'm speaking from attachment D, the report on the status of the 2-year late audits. I'm just going to go through the summary, and if y'all have any questions about any individual unit, please let me know. We will be setting up, in a previous meeting, I talked about how we were going to set up in-depth meetings with the units and separate meetings with their auditors to see if we could determine what the root issue is for each one of these units as to why they cannot get their audits completed. And we will be setting those up this month. Just a reminder, Lucama and Black Creek are behind, starting with 2019, and they are still at that point. They've not made really any progress to speak of. The towns of Baden, Rhonda, Hamilton, and Jackson in the Englehart Sanitary District have all submitted both their 20 and 21 audits. So the only thing they're missing at this point is 2022. And I believe probably starting with my next report, we'll start talking about who's missing for 2022.
So let me talk out loud for a minute. So Rhonda, Wilkesboro blames their problems on Rhonda's auditors pulling Rhonda and Wilkesboro down. So it's now Wilkesboro, now Rhonda's more up to date on the audits that Wilkesboro is.
Wilkesboro hasn't submitted their 2021 yet.
No,
No.
I was trying to remember which year they're on
And
2021.
Rhonda has submitted 2020 and 2021.
Okay, thanks. Proceed.
And the town of Green Level has submitted its 2020 report, so now they're just delinquent 21 and 22 at this point. So we still have 9 units that are at least 2 years behind. The towns of Bailey, Black Creek, Green Level's only 1 year behind. Lucama, Micro's only 1 year behind. Newport, Ramsar's only 1 year behind, and Swan Quarter Sanitary District. Wilkesboro also is only 1 year behind, excluding 2022 on.
Anything else? That's it. Okay. Any questions for Sharon? All right. Any other announcements, Sharon?
Mr. Treasurer, wanted to confirm dates that Council State published their schedule for the remainder for the 2023. Obviously, we try to coincide our meeting dates with theirs. Any issues or concerns with, we had already established the meeting dates for January through March, but we wanted to be able to set the dates for the remainder of the year to coincide with the Council of State schedule. So any concerns or objections, or can we publish that as our schedule?
Bill? Secretary of State? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And then also,
And then the traveling ones, we had not
We have not identified
set dates, but not. Thanks.
the other announcement is that next month we will be bringing a request to extend to October the certification of the local government mutual fund. Which right now is the North Carolina Government Fund, run by Capital Management of the Carolinas.
All right, extending to October, the time frame necessary to analyze the RFPs or to approve.
We've got rules that we've got to get done, and we will share those as soon as.
I believe next month, we'll be bringing the rules for the commission's consideration to changes in the rules. And we'll, at the same, we need the extension, we'll do the extension for the current trust as well, for the current fund as well through October. So both will be presented in February.
I'm not trying to belabor this meeting, but obviously there's a lot going on with State Employees Credit Union versus the LGFCU. Do you anticipate that issue coming in front of us?
No, they're not eligible as official depositories for local governments, so
Who's not eligible?
any credit union.
But I thought this board had to approve the creation of the LGFCU.
Not that I'm aware of. That was a long time ago. So.
Okay.
Cindy?
Does it ring a bell with anybody? Okay. All right. Well, there's lots going on there, so that somebody's dealing with behind the scenes. So the backstory there is that the LGFCU, its back office is the State Employees Credit Union in terms of bricks and mortar and IT and deposit slips. And I think I haven't seen it, but I think there's been correspondence where SECU is going to be upgrading the computer systems, and they've asked LGFCU not to be on their systems anymore. And local government credit union has no back office, has no bricks and mortar, has nothing. So it's kind of a little bit of a issue that's probably coming up sometime this year. So, all right. Anything else? Any board members like to chime in?
On that particular subject or on any subject?
Any subject.
Yes. Mr. Treasurer, I'd like to suggest that when the minutes are done, the report for 2022 be like a separate addendum where we can show it when we're discussing with people what the local government commission does, that it's not buried down on page 8 of the minute, so that we could actually use it as a handout when we're talking to people. I'm amazed at the members of the General Assembly that I talk to, that either they don't want to acknowledge that they know what's going on in the local government commission, or they do not know. I'd like to suggest that, and particularly bringing out our float or award we received. The 3 big ones are down in my part of the world: the ferry, Project Grace, and what's the third? And Spring Lake, which all is happening in southeastern North Carolina. I'd like to just share with the board that I am under the impression that the New Hanover County Board of County Commissioners paid $2,500,000 for those set of plans on Project Grace, and we may be looking at that again. But I primarily am suggesting that we draft the minutes that the highlights or the accomplishments the LGC had in 22 be where it almost is like a handout that we can share with people as an extract from the minute.
Okay. I don't see any problem with doing that, Mr. Butler.
Thank you.
Anything else? Before we adjourn, Councilwoman Hoffman, I was in Greensboro yesterday, and it's a little bit of an update because of all the attention that we spent with the Guilford County School Bond issuance. That I understand when I was in Greensboro yesterday that the school board has presented to the county commission, sort of confirming what they said in this very room, that of the $300 million that we approved for the Guilford County school system a couple of 3 years ago, only about $30 million of that business has been put on the street, and it came in, if I heard correctly last night, that $30 million of the business came in at about $49 million. So, and that they're going to need additional money, which is what we sort of brought up in this room, not only for the first $300 million, but possibly for the $1.7 billion on top of that. So I'm hitting you cold with that, Councilwoman Hoffman, but that's what I heard last night, and you may be hearing some of the same stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's correct. We know that that pricing on everything has increased. Not expecting that to change. So we'll have a school board and a county commission that will have to figure that out down the road.
Thank you very much. And with that, any other comments by board members on any topic? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
And a second.
Second.
Motion second being made. The clerk will call the roll.
Butler and Wood. Mr. Toole.
Aye.
Secretary Penny.
Aye.
Mr. Burns.
Aye.
Ms. Harvey.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Philbin.
Aye.
Treasurer.
Aye.
Thank you all.
And Mr. Butler, the one you were thinking of was the kayak launch at Sunset Beach. Thank you very much. We're adjourned. Happy New Year.